Here's a headline for you. President Biden hit the campaign trail this week. He's going to Nevada, Arizona, and Texas, those 3 states in yellow.
It comes as NBC News is reporting that the president is angry and anxious about his reelection bid.
All right, Rich Edson is live at the White House. Rich.
Morning, guys. Well, recent polling does have President Biden's approval rating below 40%. Some other polls show he's trailing former President Trump in a number of key battleground states. The campaign says that after the State of the Union, the idea was for the president to hit the battleground states. That's what he's doing. He also spent part of this month campaigning in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and New Hampshire. This weekend, Biden spoke at the annual Gridiron dinner here in Washington, where he ripped his presumed opponent, former President Trump, saying, quote, "The big news this week is 2 candidates clinched their party's nomination for president. One candidate is too old, mentally unfit to be president. The other's me." Over the weekend, the Biden-Harris campaign announced it raised more than $53 million in February, has $155 million in cash on hand. It's a total they say is the most from a Democratic candidate in history at this point in the cycle. We're still waiting on the Trump campaign's February numbers. The Associated Press reports by the end of January, his 2 major committees had about $36.6 million in cash on hand. Trump spent the weekend campaigning in the Republican Senate primary race in Ohio, backing Cleveland businessman Bernie Moreno.
They know I'm going to win tomorrow. I'm the threat to them. I'm the outsider. I'm the one who's never been in office, compared to the contrast with somebody who's been running for political office since Richard Nixon was president. So the contrast is pretty sharp between me and Sherrod Brown, and that's what we're going to highlight today and tomorrow.
At primaries tomorrow, he faces Secretary of State Frank LaRose and State Senator Matt Dolan. Back to you guys.
Hey, Rich, a real quick question. After his State of the Union address about 10 days ago, it sounded like a lot of people in his party and also the campaign energized because, look, he was alive. But it doesn't seem like they're putting him in a situation where he can actually, have interplay between, like, a person like you, a reporter, and him, which, they felt 10 days ago he was doing okay.
Yeah, there have been a number of different counts on this. This president doesn't get out in front of the media very much and take questions in a more traditional press conference type setting. Every once in a while on the South Lawn, when he's leaving to go somewhere, he'll pop over and ask a question or two. But there have been complaints from the press that to the White House that he really needs to get out and answer some questions more directly from reporters.
Yeah. We'd love to have him on the couch. We have room.
So there's also, thank you so much, Rich.
Sure.
In addition to that article that NBC is saying that he was, cussing, he was shouting, he was swearing, they say that in a separate article that he has some new shoes. He's wearing these lifestyle sneakers, the Hokas, and some are speculating if they're designed to keep him from falling.
Yeah. Right. For support.
Well, I'm glad they're putting the president on the road, but the question is, what is he going to talk about? He's going to Michigan. Is he going to stand with the Jewish people, or is he going to align himself with the Hamas caucus? Right. When he goes to Texas, is he going to apologize from suing my state of Texas, or is he going to and talk about securing the border, or is he going to go and say, listen, Greg Abbott is anti-immigrant? He's going to say all that other stuff. Arizona, the #1 issue, according to our Fox polling, is the economy. Is he going to say I broke it with inflation?
Yeah.
We'll see, I guess.
Yeah, so here's what the NBC's reporting this. Behind the scenes, that he's beginning to shout and swear. A lawmaker familiar with the meeting said he believed he had been doing what was right despite the political fallout. He told the group, according to the lawmaker, he asked about the episode, this in Andrew Bates, a White House spokesperson said, President Biden makes national security decisions based on the country's national security needs and that no other factor. That is just can't be true, because so far he apologized, promised to do better when he met with Arab leaders. About what? Supporting Israel. And then we know that behind the scenes he was going to have a come to Jesus meeting with Bibi Netanyahu. Is that true? What are you talking about? A third person familiar with the internal discussion said he feels cocooned at times and has been eager to get out more, meet more voters face to face, and take the fight directly to you. What is going on behind the scenes that his officials think that if he goes out and speaks to people, it all goes awry? The people that see him closest think he should stay far away from us. What does that tell you?
But you're the president of the United States, and you feel like you're in a cocoon. You have the bully pulpit. You can go out there and take over the press briefings. It can't be worse than Karine Jean-Pierre. So, he could go out there and talk with the American people every single day, but he's choosing They feel, to your
Well,
point,
you
Brian,
hear him
that he
always
can't
turn around
do
and say,
it.
"Can I speak now? Can I ask questions?"
Well, ultimately, he's got to make a choice. Is he going to rely on his political instincts, which one of the reasons he's been in politics for 175 years, or is he going to rely on his advisors and strategists who are trying to drag him across the finish line, who are saying, hey, you know what, less is more?
I think he relies on his advisors.
I think that's why he feels cocooned.
Yeah, and he asks them, can I take questions?
Well, he doesn't want to get in trouble with the advisors.
Exactly, but if you're the president of the United States and you're running for your last term, wouldn't you be strong enough to say, I'm the one who's president, not you?
And I think that's part of the frustration.
It looks like he's back to his normal ways. I don't know what strategies or tools they use during the State of the Union, but he doesn't seem as alert and on fire and yelling like he used to be.
Well, you look at his run out of Gaslight last week. He's going to 3 states out west this week, starting tomorrow. It's going to be interesting because one thing he does have is a lot of money. He's raised over $50 million, and one thing the Republicans need is money. So they have not done a good job to this point.
Speaking of the Republicans, I read this morning, I think in the Post, it sounds like Paul Manafort may actually come back and work with the campaign as an advisor. His job would be centered on Milwaukee Convention and could include some fundraising to make some money for the Republicans.
Milwaukee Convention coming up 3rd week in July.
It is right around the corner. I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.